I was at a choice point when I was 39. I was living the dream. We lived in this ocean view home in Southern California. I was doing extremely well financially. All of a sudden, this large $2 billion publicly traded company came in, swooped in, and 90% of the people were either fired or quit within 1 year.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg. As you know, one of the reasons I even do this show, selfishly, is I just love meeting people. I think everybody walking around this earth has a story. Being an international pilot and flying all over the world for the last 30 years, I have met a lot of interesting people. And the thing I've learned is that when you walk past someone, whether I'm in a bar in Sydney, Australia, or a coffee house in Germany, is every single person on that street has a story. They have a past, they have a current, and they have a future. And so selfishly, I want to meet interesting people, just like my guest today, Lisa. And I want to make sure that I get to know her at the same time that you do. So Lisa, for the past 30 years, she's helped market leaders and she helps them navigate some of these high stake transitions so that they can grow healthy companies. And I believe owning a company is all about building something that you can enjoy your life to create better memories with your family. Now, she's worked with big companies like AARP, CoStar, Google, Hilton, and she helps them launch breakthrough ideas. She's obviously done a ton of podcasting, keynote speaking, coaching, kind of all the above. And she has a latest book. It's called The Mindful Marketer. So Lisa, first of all, welcome to the show. Appreciate having you.
Thank you so much for having me today, Steve.
So I just did your flyby. Did I miss anything, by the way? Was that okay?
No, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Awesome. So just so we can kind of get to know you a little better, I like to find out who you are really as a person. And my question is before I introduced you and I talked about all your successes and all the accolades, but if I asked you, who is Lisa without the resume? What would you say?
As of today, I'm an entrepreneur trapped in a mermaid's body.
Really? That's interesting. Why do you say that?
Well, I really value adventure. I value lifelong learning, or as I like to call it, long life learning. I absolutely love running my business. This is my 25th year. And I really love building and cultivating community. So I get to do all of that, and I get fueled by all of these adventures and trips that I've taken over the years, mostly around some of my open water swim adventures, which hopefully we will get into. So that's really been a catalyst to fueling my sense of risk-taking, passion, and adventure.
I love that. So let's first of all, you've been doing this a long time. I'm guessing there's ebbs and flows, ups and downs, forward, backwards, all the above. Is there a part of your journey that nobody really knows about, nobody claps for, but actually changed everything for you?
I was really lucky that I started writing books about 18 years ago. And when I started publishing, as time went on, I became more and more vulnerable and more willing to share stories. At the beginning, I was just talking about things, anodyne topics like business strategy and business growth and marketing and all my years of selling large enterprise software solutions and professional services and consulting. But then over time, as I've gotten a little bit older and a little bit wiser, I realized, I really don't have much. First of all, I have given up trying to impress people with accomplishments and achievements. I've reached a point in life where I am very grateful for what I have and for the clients that have stuck beside me for, 5, 10, some of them 22 years. And so I'm now at a point where I am able to have what I call third vault conversations, not only with my readers and my audiences across different channels like LinkedIn and Harvard Business Review, but I also get to let them kind of come along on the ride with me as I go through my own high stakes transitions and adventures. And some of them are very painful, but I do my best to share those things and use them so that others can learn from them as I am learning along the way. So I've been doing that much more now in my 60s than I did when I was starting out my business at age 39.
If you didn't choose this path that you're on right now, what do you think you'd be doing right now? Like, who would I be talking to today?
Yeah. I was at a choice point when I was 39. I'll tell you what happened. I think this is chapter 1 of my first book, but what happened when I was in my late 30s is I was living the dream. I was married at the time. We lived in this ocean view home in Southern California. And I was doing extremely well financially. And I was working for one of the coolest consulting firms. I was one of the early employees. We grew the company to 54 million. And everything was going along great. 2 years in, the owners got an incredible, what do you say in The Godfather? They got an offer they couldn't refuse.
Right.
So this little $54 million company got sold for $238 million. Now you can do the math on that because you're in the real estate business. So, that's a good ROI over a 10-year period. That's pretty good. So all of a sudden, this large $2 billion publicly traded company came in, swooped in. The lawyers took over, and essentially they gutted the company and took all of our intellectual property. And 90% of the people were either fired or quit within 1 year. So all the people I loved that, we helped write books, we developed IP, we served some at the time, we had our own Mag 7. We were serving and advising the world's top technology companies. And all of a sudden I was like, who am I? And what am I doing here? I am the worst employee ever. And so I was at this crossroads and I said, okay, I'm either going to be one of those employees that is a victim and is going to spend her time complaining about her boss forever, or I am going to spin off and do something on my own where I am the pilot of my own future. Completely by accident, through a social connection, I met somebody who called himself a coach. And I had this is back. Okay. Do you remember like 1999, 2000, 2001? The whole executive coaching, business coaching world was so nascent and nobody understood what it was, including me. I thought he was a sports coach, but he was an actual business coach. And he helped me build the muscle and the confidence over the course of our 2 years together to put together some kind of, I'll call it transition plan, high stakes transition plan to start my own business. And because of his work, I was able to generate my own consulting and advisory business, and I was profitable within 90 days. So that's how it all got started. So there were 3 conditions in place that allowed me to do that. So I'm not answering your question because I don't believe I had any other logical choice to make. First of all, I had to work on my belief system around, what is it I am capable of doing? Number 2, so that was my state, right? Number 2 is I had to have a strategy. So, what's my plan for building this business? What's my value add to the marketplace? And how am I going to communicate my values so I can attract the best clients I can? And then the third thing that I had to do was to have some kind of, so I had to have a state, my mental state, I had to have a strategy, and I had to have some kind of community around me to keep me going. So those are the places I invested and doubled down so that I could move forward. And here I am. And I had some horrible years for personal reasons. 9/11 kind of knocked me out for a few months because I used to actually work in one of the Twin Towers with a large mutual fund company. And I was an advisor to the president of that company. So there were a few months there that were very touch and go. And of course, there was that year known as 2008, which was also kind of rugged and set me back for a year or two. But, following some of those basic strategies and principles I laid out, I was able to bounce forward and reinvent. And I don't know if this has happened to you, Steve, but I'm pretty good at reinvention and experimentation.
I think that a lot of times it's our identity that we have to change, right? And I'm sure like when you were working for that company that got purchased, uh sometimes our identity is wrapped up in what we do. And when a new company comes in and basically cleans the slate, sometimes we're standing there and the after effects of who we are of building this company, whether it's our company or not, we're still blood, sweat, and tears going into this business. I think a lot of times the identity becomes a challenge as to, well, if I'm not that person anymore, then who am I? And you've got to go back, and instead of looking out, you've got to kind of start looking inner. And maybe you've got to maybe address some demons that you didn't want to address or answer some things that you didn't want to answer before, but now you kind of have to. Was there any, like, if you had a low point in your life or in your business where you said like after 9/11, and I was affected by 9/11 as an airline pilot. If you can think back at that time frame for a second and just imagine yourself back in that moment, what did that version of you believe in?
What did that version of me believe in? I believed in the power of community. So I knew early on that I needed to belong to a community of leaders who had been a few steps ahead of me, who had walked in my shoes, who had been through some difficult times, but were able to reinvent themselves. So I mean, within months of starting my coaching practice, I reached out to a man by the name of Marshall Goldsmith,
I know,
who
Marshall.
has been voted, he's been voted the world's top executive coach, and he's coached sheiks. He's coached royalty, family members of royalty. He has coached CEOs like former Ford CEO Alan Mulally and Boeing CEO. He's worked with countless CEOs who I've actually gotten to meet through some of the community activities I've been involved in with him. But I met him very early on in my coaching career. I invited him out to breakfast at Milton's Delicatessen, and he joined me. And I think that was kind of the beginning of my truly understanding the power of hanging out with people who are generous, who are caring, and who have walked in my shoes but are a few steps ahead of me on the trail. And they've been, I mean, I could go on. There have been people like him and Professor Amy Edmondson from Harvard Business School, and Chip Conley, the former founder of Joie de Vivre Hotels, who now runs the Modern Elder Academy, and a variety of other people who've really touched, moved, and inspired me to get through and run through the gauntlet when things are rough. So I've got a lot of these people on on my speed dial. I just remember that, okay, I need to get over myself and ask for help and give up this egoic belief that I need to have all the answers. Have you
So
felt that way before
I
in your
have.
business?
Yeah, I think we all have to. I think we go in thinking we know something and we think we have a plan until we get that punch in the mouth. And then we realize that plan did not work. It was never going to work. It wasn't even realistic. Um, and what I have found is every time I want to go to that next level, find that next gear inside of me, become that new identity, I've actually learned a different question to ask myself every time. The majority of times, I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs, and it's proven every year with New Year's resolutions of what we're going to do more of. I'm going to be better at eating food and I'm going to work out more.
Which
But
is all around punishing you, right? It's all around. I just wrote an article about this. I really wish we'd give up this whole resolution concept and move to rituals. What
yeah,
if I just practice rituals that enrich my life and help the people I'm working with or serving, and stop assuming that we've done a whole bunch of things wrong in the past and need to resolve to make them better?
yeah. And I ask a different question. The question I ask is, what do I need to let go of to level up? It's kind of like the weights are weighing me down and I'm holding a balloon. And I've got to shed some weight for this balloon to take me up into the air more. And it's different question. I've learned that when I ask that question, what do I need to stop doing so that I can be more laser focused on what I need to do? And you know what they say, you ask a different question, you get a different answer. And so a lot of times that's when answers come to me when I ask a different question. We all know, you know, if you want to lose weight, you got to work out more. But it's like, what do I need to stop doing? I need to stop procrastinating. Maybe that's something I should stop doing to get to the next level. And I think it's, whether it's a pattern interrupt or what we want to call it, I think that, and I'm just curious if you've thought of this ever or seen people do this about letting go to grow as opposed to holding tighter. Have you noticed that much?
Yes, in fact, one of the rituals that I talk about in my books and in my recent articles is all around the art of grieving. And here in Western culture, I've been studying Buddhism for about 24 years, and I love the philosophy behind it. And I just wrote an article about how here in Western culture, we don't like to talk about letting go or grieving the loss of something. It's almost like we're embarrassing ourselves. And yet, if you look at other cultures that have really stood the test of time, um, and I look back at some of my Native American roots, they have all kinds of rituals for grieving the loss of their pets, their family members, their children. God forbid their children die before the parents do. And yet here, we because of the overindulgence in social media and technology and the fact that Americans tend to break up and move around and leave their center of family gravity wherever that hometown tends to be, we have lost that consistency around ritual. So, I just did a burning ritual with my marketing growth leaders peer group, and they loved it. We met in December to let go of the things that no longer serve their organizations. And these are companies that range in revenue from 30 million to 3.6 billion. And they wrote down the things that no longer serve them or no longer align with their growth strategy. And I gathered them all up and we burned them
Love
and
that.
said goodbye to them. And I invite everybody to consider doing that, whether it's going through a breakup, a divorce, a job loss, a giving up a division of your company, selling it off. Think of all the things you need to let go of to make space for new things to sprout through the frost. And you can actually download some of my transition strategies in case anyone's interested, I've got a series of workbooks and a video course at themindfulmarketer.com if people want to download those resources.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Let me ask you this. Is there and it's funny, you were talking about Western culture, and I, from traveling around the world extensively, I see what you see. Maybe not as in depth and focused in one particular religion, but it makes me laugh because in Western culture, they don't even talk about money. Like they don't even broach the subject about how much money do you make, because that's taboo. And it's like they just encapsulate and insulate themselves because I don't know if they identify that with their level of education, because they put so much pride on education as opposed to experiences. I don't know the answer, but for the people that you coach, the people you work with, do you ever find a common thread of a belief system that keeps them stuck? Whether stuck, broke, financially, whatever that may be, but do you find a common belief system that is very evident in your learnings?
Well, I've coached many hundreds of people now in the last 25 years. And then I've had the joy of also collaborating with some very large online learning companies like LinkedIn Learning and Skillsoft. So I have taught more than 30,000 people now across the world. And really, there are no universal belief systems that permeate every culture, but there are a few final candidates that kind of make it to the top of the hit list.
Right.
One of them is, one of them, particularly among growth leaders, and these are vice presidents of sales, chief growth officers, chief marketing officers. They often, for whatever reason, the limiting belief I see among them is often I need to make everybody happy. So we affectionately like to call that the people pleaser mindset, that, it's my job to create perfect harmony in this organization,
Right.
which, that is a windmill chasing belief system, because I actually have a contrarian view on that, especially being a thought leader and an author now, is I can say, if I'm not poking and provoking, why am I doing this work? I mean, my best meeting last week was when the head of marketing for this $3.5 billion company said, I said, what's a big takeaway from today's planning session? And she said, man, you made me so uncomfortable. And we high-fived each other. And I said, oh, good, then my day is done.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
And so there's that. And there are a few others. One is, I need more education. I can't take any action because I need a certification of some sort, right? That's another one that's very rampant in Western culture.
Yeah.
And so those are a couple. What do you see?
I see a lot of different things. I see a belief of trying to be better than their neighbor. A lot of times people want to feel that they're better than the person next to them, and they feel that money, education, something that they can hang their hat on, gives them that ability. I also think that humans don't like change. We think of change as torture. So we'd rather, it's the devil you know or devil you don't know. And so a lot of times people would rather stay in what they're doing and what they're comfortable with, even if they know it's not going to give them the life they want. And it's not going to get them to where they want to go. And so I've seen a lot of people, that you hear the term, we are creatures of habit. There's a lot of truth to that. And the creature of habit is not always to be better. A lot of times we will sit in our misery because it's the devil we know. When you started, right, did you have a certain belief of success that is different than today? Of you've been doing this 24, 25 years. You've seen a lot of success. Money comes and goes, relationships, everything. Am I talking to a different Lisa today, that if I were to ask you what success is 24 back in 2000 to the Lisa today?
Yes, well, goodness me. I think it was Dr. David Hawkins who wrote this seminal book, Power versus Force, that said that we change at a cellular level every 7 years.
Okay.
So there is scientific evidence that proves that who you and I are now will probably look very different from who we are in 7 years. So the change is going to happen whether you and I like it or not.
Sure.
And so I invite people to look into some of the wonders and the miracles coming out of studies around neuroscience and our nervous system and how it's connected to our hearts and brains, because it really proves that we have enormous capacity to reinvent not only how we think but who we are. And it's a wonderful time to be alive and to witness all of these massive discoveries. And from what I can see, I probably am a different person in that I mean, I'm not here. I know they say that if you don't toot your own horn, there is no music, but I am a better communicator than I was 25 years ago. And I am able to better understand people from different cultures and backgrounds than I was when I was 39 or 40. And I am such a lifelong learner. I mean, I just love to learn. I've been to dozens and dozens of retreats and education programs to improve my ability to be a great entrepreneur and a great helper of clients. So, goodness gracious, I hope that I have been applying some of the key things that I've learned. I mean, best people to ask, as I always tell people, since my cat is not very good at speaking English, the best people to ask, of course, are my clients. And hopefully we've been growing together.
I think a lot of it, and you'll probably agree with me. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. It's what they say when you're not there. What do they say about me? What would you like for people to say about you when you're not in the room?
Well, I have no control over what people will say about me.
Agreed.
All I really hope that they will say is she is who she is. She's true to herself. There are no pretenses, and that I trust her.
I like that.
And the rest hopefully will reveal itself. I mean, that's really how I want to be remembered, that people can trust me with whatever it is they say or whatever it is they share, and that I am, in some capacity, I am making their lives a little bit better.
The Lisa I'm talking to today, I think we all have definitions of success, as we alluded to earlier. Is there a version of success that you are chasing now? Like when you get up in the morning, what are you chasing?
I'm not chasing as much as I am now allowing.
Okay.
I really was a chaser for I mean, I was a striver and a chaser for decades. I came out of the womb with projects. And, my poor parent, I got to thank my parents, because may they both rest in peace. But my brother and I came out so different. And my parents were smart enough to say, all right, she has a lot of energy. She could probably accomplish a lot in the world, but we have to make sure we direct her into the right projects and activities. So they just threw me into clubs and tennis team and swimming and cheerleading camp. I mean, I could go on forever, but all I remember is I slept really well because I had such a full schedule that I could not even, I never had time to get in trouble with the kids on the wrong side of the tracks, because I never saw the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah, that's funny.
And Now, especially because of someone I was recently in a long-term relationship with someone who was really, really good at practicing the art of boredom and really taught me a lot about the art of doing nothing and having a lot of white space on the weekends to kind of create an activity or sit on the couch and read or meditate longer. And at literally just really cultivating boredom. And when I do that, that's where all my best ideas come for new articles, for client work, new offerings. So now I'm in a stage of an era where it's all about creating moments of boredom and leveraging, really leveraging AI and leveraging efficiencies so I can create and open up more time on my calendar.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said with sitting in silence. And I think it's uncomfortable for a lot of people because maybe I don't know if it's because you've got to kind of think now start looking inner at yourself when you're sitting in silence. I don't know the answer to that, but I know I'm not the best at it. Being an airline pilot, sitting on a plane for 14 hours heading to Tokyo, you get a lot of silence. You get some quiet time. You get some time to think. Sitting in a city by yourself that you don't know anyone and you're just watching the world go by, you get some time to think. So I think there's a lot to be said about the white space. I think that, there's a time and place for it. Is there something like a truth that you know today that you wish someone told you earlier, like when you were younger?
Well, I really wish I had the opportunity to meet Pablo Picasso because one of my favorite aphorisms from him is without great solitude, no serious work is possible.
Huh. Never heard that
And
before. I love that.
And I really believe in that. And I am in a season right now of more solitude than I'm normally used to because I'm ramping up for the 25-year anniversary party for my business. My birthday this year is kind of a big number. And there's, some new things I'm taking on in terms of travel and swim vacations and swim competitions. So I'm kind of in this cocoon right now until for at least for the next month where I'm really not out there traveling and making a lot of things happen. I'm in reflection and reinvention mode. And it's very uncomfortable at times. I'll tell you, Steve, and I have to be okay with letting the world go by and not going to every networking event or party or swim vacation. A bunch of my friends just went to Belize for this over the top swim vacation. I chose not to go. And my FOMO was screaming like, oh, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you going on this trip?
So
But
let's
here I
talk about
am. I'm okay.
let's talk about what you're doing now. You mentioned a book and you mentioned swimming a couple times. Tell me, do these intertwine at all? First of all, the swimming world and the book, just I'd like to hear more about that.
Well, one thing that I've come to realize, Steve, is I think, and this is especially true for women, I think every human that has the physical capacity to do so should take up some kind of competitive sport because these lessons have taught me everything I need to know to run a business. They really have. Setting aside, things like effective fiscal management and IT support and some other things that might be a little more dry. But when it comes to understanding how to deal with uncertainty and volatility, which you and I are living through right now, on not only on the geopolitical front, but with the way the economy is being propped up through the Mag 7, and we can't get economists to agree on how strong our economy really is. Because of some of these moments in time, competitive sports continue to give me a lot of the skills and the fuel to pause, reflect, and set a new course where necessary. I mean, this takes me back to a year and a half ago. I signed up for I've done about 45 open water swim races.
Now, just so I understand, when you say open water, I'm not a fish. I'm probably nothing close to a fish. I probably sink. Explain to me, what does that mean?
It means going into a river, a lake, a pond, an ocean, and going from one point to another, whether it's 500 meters or in my case, up to 5,000 meters, which is
Wow.
about 3 miles. So I've done all different types of open water races. I skip rivers, cold water, or dirty water. I get to swim in really nice locations. So I was like, one of my more recent trips was to cross the channel that connects the Atlantic Ocean with the Caribbean Sea.
Okay.
And that's from Nevis to St. Kitts in the Virgin Islands. I bet you've been there.
I have. I've been to both.
So, I mean, I should write a little booklet or a blog post about resilience and leadership, things that I learned from that experience. But there were 248 swimmers.
Okay.
And this race has been going on for 2 decades. So they had 44 relief boats and kayakers to watch us. They had weather reports. They have safety people everywhere. They have an emergency boat to relieve you and give you some additional hydration to cross this 5,000 meter channel to go from one to the next. I've done this before. I've done it in places like Hawaii and Oregon and all these places. So I was pretty ready. But when I got out there, everything they told us about the currents and the air direction was completely wrong.
Wow.
So I got out I finished about 60% of the race, and I looked around and I started treading water. And I couldn't see any boats. I couldn't see any swimmers. And it was getting rougher and rougher out there in the sea. So I did the only thing I knew how to do, is I paused and I started meditating with my eyes open. And I just had to catch my breath and say, where am I? Where do I spot anybody? And where do I go next? So instead of panicking, I just did my breath work. And then I looked down, and underneath the surface was the largest school of stingrays I had ever seen in over 40 years of swimming open water. And it's almost like they talked to me and they said, girl, you got this. And I started to follow the direction they were going. And they were headed towards the shore of St. Kitts, where the race ended. And somehow I started to spot other swimmers with the fluorescent caps, and I made it to shore. And it was the first time in all the decades I've been doing this that I just broke down. I kissed the beach and I cried. Because I realized, had I not paused and just really gotten myself recentered, I would have been one of the 28 swimmers they had to pull out of the water for dehydration, disorientation, or exhaustion.
Wow.
So how does one learn these lessons unless we are able and willing to go through the hard times?
Good question. Tell me about your book.
So I've written and edited 6 books. My most recent book, so I've done some collaborations with my editors at Springer Nature as well as Harvard Business Review. My most recent book is the one that I wrote is called The Mindful Marketer: How to Stay Present and Profitable in a Data-Driven World. So, how could you? So, essentially, I bring some of my own self realization and mindfulness lessons into how do you interact with your customers and your stakeholders in a way that is where you can be present and you can be fully capable of bringing your most helpful self to any situation and attract the kind of customers that are with you for life.
I like that. And for the people watching, if they want to find the book, where do they go to find it, to buy it?
Oh, thanks for asking. So I have an Amazon page. People find me on Amazon. And you can also just go to lisanirell.com. I have a book page. I also have links to my online courses. And I think I have more than 500 articles now up on the
Wow.
blog. So I do my best to publish every couple of weeks something new and fresh, uh, fresh ideas from the field for the community that follows me so people can sign up there to get our insights and our invites.
I love that. And if somebody wants to just find you online, your website, or how do they do that, or email you directly?
Yes, you can go to lisanirell.com, Nirell.com, or you can download some learning bonuses at themindfulmarketer.com. And then if you go to my website, I also have it, just go to the events page. I now have about 95 live streams and podcasts on myriad topics. And I also interview some of my mentors and fellow authors on topics tied to leading high stakes transitions. So I'm hopeful that that would be helpful to everyone listening.
Great. And we will have that in the show notes. If anybody wants to just go into the notes down below and you'll be able to see it. Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. It was a great show. I learned a lot. I can definitely see why you're an expert in what you do. So I want to thank you for taking the time, spending it with me, with my audience, getting to know more about what you do, who you are, and your book, more importantly. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
It's really been a pleasure. Thank you, Steve.
All right. And everybody watching, thank you again for another episode of High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg. We will see you next week with another amazing guest like Lisa. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.